Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Lori, and thank you everybody for joining us this afternoon, or probably morning for most of you, depending on what part of the country you're in, or maybe some really odd hour of the morning or evening if you're calling in internationally. So thanks for joining us. Today, the topic we're going to talk about is using CRM to manage sales meetings. Meetings, maybe not exactly the most exciting topic, but believe it or not, I have a ton of energy and even excitement around this. And it's really because when you do these well, they define your culture, they define your productivity, they define how your people work together better to actually get things done. Incredibly, incredibly important, not too difficult to get right, but most companies we consult with seem to really struggle with it. So I'm assuming there's a big need for it out there. So I've tried to kind of grab a lot of the practices we've helped people with as I've coached sales managers and executives and individual reps, and wrap them together to give you guys something in an hour to give you as much traction as you can around this maybe not always exciting, but super, super important topic that I want to get through today. So thanks for joining us. We're going to jump in and I'll do a little more introduction here in a minute. But I want to start with a tale of two sales managers. So as I said, I've worked with dozens of clients, helping them to get the most out of CRM. Those of you who know me and have heard me talk before have probably heard me mention that for whatever reason, we seem to get engaged with a lot of the organizations who are struggling. I think that's because we're not just a technology, how to get stuff done or how to do stuff with CRM shop, but we're also a business consulting shop. So we do a lot of things coaching leaders and users and managers and executives. And so throughout that journey, I'd say never has a difference made by an engaged sales manager versus a disengaged one been more pronounced than in a meeting we had with a manufacturing client. And the cool thing with this story is we've had a number of years to kind of watch it evolve as it has kind of emerged. So two lines of business, two sales managers, a 3-year period. And these two sales managers, very, very similar in many ways, very strong people skills, natural leaders, had a history of being very experienced sales reps, a proven track record. But manager one was managing kind of the big, established, more well-known business. It was kind of the cash cow of this organization. Um, they they set their goals. This manager set their line of business goals year over year. So they're kind of like, how did we do last year? We want to change it to be better this year. A very classical legacy kind of approach. That manager viewed Dynamics CRM in their case as a user tool. So this is not a manager tool. And in fact, one of the things this manager struggled with was, I don't trust this tool. I don't always trust the information in it. So you users, use it to help you get your job done. I expect you to do that. But when I meet with you, I'm not going to be looking at it, and I'm frequently going to be asking you to enter information to Excel, which I trust is more relevant, up-to-date information than what comes out of CRM. Manager number two, much newer upstart area of the company, didn't have as much revenue, pretty profitable and a bright future for it, but it was up and coming. This manager owned it. This manager looked at it and literally, in fact, one of the differences between these two managers from the very early days when we established it and we talked about CRM failure is really a leadership failure. Manager number one, the first one I talked about, kind of said, I don't buy that. You're saying it's my fault if I don't do it. That's baloney. I just don't buy into that. Manager number two absolutely owned it and said, failure is not an option. I'm going to take it very personally. That manager used CRM as the pipeline to forecast cash flow. That manager looked at it as a management tool almost first and a user tool second. And the mantra that many of you might have heard was, if it's not in CRM, it didn't happen. I'm going to use this to run my meetings. I'm going to use this to ask questions. And if you come into my office or into a meeting and tell me something that I can't validate with CRM, you've not done your job. Now, what happened was through a downturn that happened a few years ago, pre-COVID, and then more recently through COVID even more, manager number one had to make massive cuts. Manager number one had to try to pivot due to a surprise in a downturn in the economy, and that division got cut back significantly. Manager number 2 experienced the exact same downturn, but because that manager was looking out deeper into the future using CRM, that manager got through it with some pain, but almost no personnel cuts whatsoever. That manager was able to pivot her group and move much more quickly. Now with the whole, when we're in the COVID situation, essentially manager number 2 has now become the SVP of sales. Manager number 1 and most of the reps within that department are now gone. And when COVID came along, this person who's now the SVP was able to pivot by looking at industries rather than just having to be reactive. So really interesting story, and really the heart of the story is this statistic that comes out of Harvard Business Review, and that's this idea not about CRM specifically, but about this whole idea of being a digital manager or being a digital leader. And what Harvard Business Review tells us about that is leaders and managers who effectively adopt digital. They don't make it a user thing. They say, this is going to be used to make me a better manager. This is going to be used to make me a better leader. When they approach it with that attitude, those organizations have quantifiably better revenue growth. And what they've done to do that pretty consistently, according to Harvard Business Review, is they have a digital coach, someone who's helping them in that journey, and they've taken the time to define a clear digital vision. Now, I'm not going to talk about all that today, but you will see these little orange flyouts throughout the session today. Less than maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, I did a session specifically on becoming a digital leader, becoming a digital manager. If you want to dive deeper into that, I'll give you some links afterwards. I may not always remember to mention it, but where you see the little orange fly out there, it means I've got another resource for you. I'd love to give you even more, but there's a ton here. So we'll be talking about those throughout the day today too, and I'll make them available to you just by reaching out to me at the end of the session if you're interested in them. So the quick lowdown on me, for those of you who I don't already know, and those of you I do know, please forgive me. I probably need to change the slide up because you're probably sick of seeing it. But my name is Jeff Abels. I run a company called C5 Insight. I've been doing that since about the year 2002. My energy and passion is around, it actually is around business and work. I think work and doing good work is a gift and an amazing thing and lots of fun if you can do stuff that you actually enjoy doing. And I like to help people figure out how to use digital to create broader and deeper relationships that they could without it. Not to replace the human touch, but to augment it, to make us better human beings, better at working with each other, whether those are coworkers or customers. And I've written some books about it and all that kind of stuff. And that's what my company exists to do. We've got a small practice that focuses on the strategic consulting stuff, which is kind of the jive we have today, and then the more technical hands-on getting it done stuff. And I do some sessions on that as well, but I'm not that deep of a technical person. And then on the personal side, so here's a little bit of my family history. My wife and I are empty nesters. We have 2 grown daughters. I'm super excited because they're both coming to visit us together for the first time since this whole COVID thing happened. They're bringing the best new gift in our family, our new grandson, who was born the day after St. Patrick's Day, Theodore Evergreen Tramolini. My wife and I love good wine. We love riding our Harley Davidson motorcycle together, and we brought Verdi, the pup, over there into the home about 1.5 years ago to help fill the gap that was created by our home emptying out. And we have a lot of fun with her, especially in these times. So help me understand a little bit about you. I'm going to ask Lori to bring up our first survey right now. And tell me, are you, what role do you most closely identify with? Are you here as a sales manager saying, hey, look, I want to learn more about this. I want to learn how to use this better. Are you here as an executive who might have multiple sales managers or others reporting to you? Or are you more a CRM administrator, an IT person who says, I need to influence this within our organization. I want to figure out how to do that. Or are you like me? Are you a partner who's out there kind of saying, hey, I'm trying to be a better and better partner all the time. This is a topic it's great for me to learn more about. So take a few more seconds to answer that. I know we tend to all multitask while these things are going on, but please jump in on this one quick question, just so I can know my audience a tiny bit better. Take 5 seconds to open the survey, click a response, and submit it so you can share that with me and everyone else today. And Thori, when you're ready, you can share that with everyone.
All right, fabulous. Great. We have close to a little over 90% that did participate. So good, good, good. Let's go ahead. We'll close it out. We'll share those results. And looks like we have 7% sales manager, 7% executive, 71% admin or IT, and 14% partner, Jeff.
Excellent. All right. Thank you, everybody, for answering that. So that is a great audience, and I'll tell you that is one of the struggles we also have with 71% saying I'm an administrator. I'm guessing one of the things you have a really hard time doing is getting those managers and executives to engage in dialogue like this. So hopefully this will give you some ammunition to do that, but it's part of what we need to do and grow in as a business together. So hopefully we'll give you some ideas on that, and I'm glad to answer your questions as we get into it. Let me ask you guys a rhetorical question. Does this picture feel like your sales meetings when you talk about CRM? Right? For most organizations, it absolutely does. What kinds of things are these people saying that's making them wear the frowny face, right? How do you respond to these people? Most of us as leaders and managers will say, no, we're not like that. This is a tool for you, right? CRM is like Big Brother. I can't tell you how often I hear people say CRM is like Big Brother. And so we kind of respond by going, no, we want to assure you this is for you. We're not watching you. We're not looking over your shoulder. This is a user-first tool. It's going to help you do your job better. And that's not necessarily untrue, but they hope really they'll make it good enough for people to want to use it on their own. And in my experience, that is a fatal mistake. What kinds of pushback are you getting? You're probably hearing all of these things. Here's the truth. They're right. They are right about every single thing that they just said in that previous list. Maybe you'd like to choose slightly different terms for it, but CRM is less than perfect. CRM needs to be a leadership and a management tool. Perhaps it needs to be that first, even before a user tool. Here's the answers you give them. Look, accountability, we want that in our organization. It is a good thing. Very few people effectively transform themselves and change without accountability. CRM literacy, it's a requirement. I'm sorry if it's difficult to learn, but just like you need to know how to learn to read and write to work in a modern workplace today, if you want to be a modern sales representative, you need to master this skill. And it's not perfect, but if we learn, we can fix it together. You may think you're exempt from using it, but others need to learn from you. If you're really that good, you need to give us information to help us understand what you're doing, because that is how we share practices across our organization. And as a leader or manager, I'm going to be using it to manage my work, so you will use it too. It's how I have visibility into what you're doing. Every manager needs to see what their people are doing. The difficulty with a lot of sales teams is you're not with them. You can't physically see it. CRM is your eyes and your ears. Got an upcoming webinar on that, and I can send you the link to that later as well. So I always like to start with this idea of why. If you heard me speak, you probably heard me say this before, but why are we doing this? It's important to understand the why, because if you understand the why, you are going to be more engaged and committed. And I think a lot of managers don't. So you need to deeply understand the why. And by understanding it yourself and communicating it to your people are more likely to be engaged and committed too. Now, look, the truth be told, knowing the why is not going to convince everybody. Depending on your culture, it might convince 20% to 50% of the people to be on board, but that is a very important 20 to 50%. So I'm gonna pause here and ask you guys a question. You tell me, why are you here? Why do you think CRM is important for sales meetings? Why do you want to use CRM for your sales meetings? So here's how I'm going to ask you to do that. You can raise your hand and speak, and Lori can unmute your mic and let you speak, or you can type it into the chat, and Lori will make sure your chat gets shared with the entire group. But I'm really comfortable with silence, so I'm going to shut up until I have at least 3 people participate and give me a reason why. I don't have all the reasons, so you guys probably have some fantastic ones. So go ahead and shoot when you're ready. Is no one typing?
Jeff, we do have some.
Okay.
Yes, you are way more comfortable in silence than I am. That's good to know about yourself, right? I wanted to jump right in. Anyways, a couple answers that we have here. Great, thank you all. But first one is shows the benefits of the company shows the benefits the company can give to the sales team to support their sales efforts. Great. Another one. Hey, Jeff, looking for ideas to present to the leadership in sales to convince them that CRM is more than a Rolodex.
Cool. Excellent.
Other one.
Go ahead.
As a new
Please.
sales manager, sorry. As a new sales manager in charge of building out a sales process for a small IT company, CRM is the platform in play, just not utilized. So
Awesome.
You got your three, Jeff.
All right, we got three. Thank goodness. That was a risk for me. I don't do that often, but hopefully we're shaking things up a little bit. I think we've all kind of had a lot of these dictator webinars, and I'm trying to get you guys a little more engaged. So to the point of someone who's kind of said, well, I'm looking for some, here are the 4 or 5 key ones. It is a much longer list than this, but I think they kind of all roll up into these this small group of things. By the way, ultimately, if you back all the way up and ask the big why CRM in general, particularly for a sales team, it's really about revenue, right? It's yes, we want to do the right thing for the customer, and we want to have great experiences and all those things, but most salespeople are in the business development business, and it's about how do we generate more revenue more efficiently in a way that's better for the customer, that makes them come back, and what it's all about how do we create and keep a customer, and ultimately how do we boost the bottom line by doing that, right? If that's not why you're doing it, then why are you spending money on CRM? You need a return on your investment. But a little more nuance than that. Visibility. Remember, I kind of said this at the beginning. You are the leader, you are the sales manager, and you can't be there day by day, right? It's like saying, I'm coaching a team, and yet the team goes and plays their games, and all I get to do is get them to give me their after game review. I can't do any sideline coaching at all. That doesn't work very well for most people, right? It's like you have raw experience that you can use to coach and lead your team, but you've got to know what they're doing to be able to do that well. And CRM is your ears and your eyes. Planning and strategy. Look, most of the way sales teams are run is you see the final scoreboard and then you try to improve on the next game, right? But if you can be more involved in the game itself with your team, you can actively coach them and do better planning and strategy, both for that game, but also for the longer term, the additional opportunities, the additional quarters of the calendar that you're going to use to get things done. It's a leadership tool. Not only is it your leadership tool as a sales manager, but if you're a sales manager in a larger organization and you're not in the C-suite, I know a lot of organizations, small organizations, the CEO is often the sales leader also. But in bigger organizations, it's not. You might have a lot of peer sales managers out there as well. But not only do you need to engage, it's a tool to help you get your leadership engaged as well. So you can say, here's some information that you CFO, you COO, you CEO can use to make a better decision. And by the way, you C-level executive, I need your influence in this to help me make better decisions about how I manage my team too. And they need to feel that engagement, because when they do, that's what helps to drive adoption. Not just saying, I hope you figure out how to use this to do your job well. And then lastly, collaboration. It's about sharing best practices, not just from the team to the manager who then disperses them, but from the team to each other, for people to be able to see what's going on inside of an organization. One organization we're working with right now, an accounting firm, is getting a huge amount of value just by being able to go in there and say, there's a whole separate office over there. In fact, there's a whole group of separate offices over there. And when I'm engaging with someone in a certain industry, I can quickly find opportunities with that same industry. I can see templates people used. I can see partners that they engaged with. I can find subject matter experts internally who can speak their language better and can help me win this deal. That is there and visible and available because they're using and adopting the CRM solution. So some simple whys to get started. You'll see some more as we go deeper into this. So that's our why, right? Why CRM for sales meetings. Let's talk a little about the how for a second here. In other words, we know why we want to do this. How are we going to get this done? So there's 4 things you're going to do inside your meeting cadence. So I like to be very high level and abstract first and then dive into details. So here's the high level. First of all, you want to create a meeting structure where you can listen to your team can listen to you and to each other, right? So listening to the team, actually saying, what is it that you are learning? What is it that you're getting done? And you listen to your team partly by engaging with them, partly by them putting information into CRM that you can consume to listen to them better and respond to them. The next thing you want to do is you actually want to understand that information. Raw data doesn't always tell the full story. And in fact, sometimes it's just an indicator and you have to dig in. You need to analyze it. You need to understand it. You need to understand what is causing them challenges. What opportunities do they have? How can I serve them as a leader? Sometimes your service role as a leader is something isn't working and I need to help my team get this fixed to make it work. Sometimes it's somebody needs training. Sometimes it's someone actually needs sales skills. Sometimes it's our team is focusing on the wrong thing and I need to help them focus on the right thing to change behavior to actually improve our bottom line. All those things. So you start with listen, all that data that you gathered when you listened, you understand it. And then on that foundation, you can start to connect to say, let's put it into action. Action in this case means I want to change behavior. I want to create new and improved habits. I want to improve our processes and our strategies. You guys are probably also all struggling with things like process and CRM and getting people to do things consistently and follow those business process flows. Why is all that stuff important? Because if you have a process, you can learn and grow and change the process. But if it's every man and woman for themselves doing it the way they think they should do it, and you want to make an improvement, you've got to have 30 different ways to improve because you got 30 different ways of doing things. That's not going to work. And then lastly, you're going to know the results. You're going to continuously improve. And maybe more importantly is knowing the results and improving is not a management activity. It is a team activity, right? No matter how you look at a team as a metaphor, some of the best ideas on a team are at the front lines of the team, not at the management level of the team. And if you really want people to engage, even if you are a super knowledgeable and experienced manager and you know all the things that should be done, if you get the team engaged and helping to give you input into making those changes, you're going to get more engagement, more traction, more behavior changes than you would if you didn't do that. So listen, understand, connect, and know. That's what you're going to do inside your meeting cadence. For those of you who know me, you know I love to make this simple, and so I talk about doing these things as becoming powered by luck, right? This is what you do. Do these 4 things again and again with the right tools, you'll get better and better. And I can tell you from my experience, absolutely, the folks who are doing this, they may not call it this exactly, but the ones who are following this framework are absolutely experiencing more success, more revenue, more change, more agility responding to negative situations than people who are making gut level decisions. And like it or not, and I hope I don't offend anybody by saying this, but the MO in most sales organizations is more gut level decisions, right? And there's a reason for that. They tend to have a very good gut when it comes to people. That's why they got attracted to that position in the first place. You don't want to take that away, but at the same time, you need to augment it by saying, we need to learn collectively rather than just individually. That way we can be much more responsive and agile while giving you enough flexibility to bring your unique humanness and skills to the table. And that is one of the challenges because we're trying to do things that go against the grain of that persona type. We don't want to break the persona type. It's an important type of persona, but we need the right leadership who can say, I can bring another dimension to this that I can't get just with people with purely good sales skills. So listen, understand, connect, and know. That is what you do. We started with the why. So what I like to say is good luck is why you do it. We can all do things better. Doing things for the right purpose and with the right vision, that creates a lot of focus and motivation and engagement that you wouldn't otherwise get. So powered by luck means having a foundation of the why of good luck and then doing the right things on top of that. So you're going to see these things come to play. A few times I'll actually call them out specifically. Other times they're maybe a little bit more subtle, but if you're looking for them, you'll see them. So got ebooks for you on that topic too, if you want to go into more detail. So let's talk meeting cadence. This is my outline for the rest of the day today. So as we think about meeting cadence, you probably already have a sales meeting cadence, first of all. Do not create a new sales cadence as a CRM set of meetings. You're plugging this into your meetings, right? You're not having a CRM meeting, you're having sales meetings. CRM happens to be one of the tools, and hopefully an important and well-used one, that helps you inside and outside of those meetings, right? In fact, I would even say at a higher level, if you have a CRM steering committee, you're probably doing it wrong, because any steering committee called a CRM steering committee is probably focused on technology. CRM is not about technology. CRM is about running your business. Rename that committee tomorrow morning. Call it something like the Business Development Committee or the Revenue Generation Committee or the Customer Experience Committee, or something that helps them remember they are not there in business doing that to create cool technology. They're there to make a difference to your business and to the customers that you exist to serve. Lots of stuff on that we can talk about separately. So sales meetings, not necessarily exciting, right? But they're really, really important, and it's easy to start skipping them. Sales teams tend to enjoy the thrill of the hunt, and they kind of get bored easily with meetings. So discipline and finding ways to help the team to engage and extract as much value as possible out of meetings, really important. So you're going to want a cadence to pay attention to this. Now, I think you're going to want a cadence that's pretty close to this one. So I'm going to go ahead and outline it here for you. This is what I'm going to use for the remainder of our session today. Some of this is going to be very familiar because you may already be doing a lot of it. So I'm sorry if I'm going to cover some stuff in repetition, but most of what I run into people doing are the bottom two meeting types in here. I think they're important. That's why they're on the list. But they say, oh, we don't have time for a full day planning meeting each year. And you know what, that quarterly meeting, maybe we don't do it at all. Maybe it's not even on the calendar, or maybe we kind of say, oh, we're so busy and there's nothing new to do this quarter, so we're not going to do that. I put this together this way to help remind you that an annual or quarterly meeting, when you add up all the hours they consume per year, consume far, far less hours than those weekly and one-on-one meetings that you're going to have. And if you do them right, they set those meetings up to be so much more productive. So get into a good cadence with this. If you've already got a cadence, awesome. And I'm big on saying adapt, don't adopt. So you don't necessarily need to say, these 4 meeting cadences, this is it, I have to do it this way. Feel free to adopt it if you want to, but if you've already got a cadence and say this works for us, take the principles I'm trying to give you today as a framework and try to build that into the cadence that you already have. That's fine. But for those of you who don't, I'm going to hit each one of these in some level of detail. What I would tell you ultimately is those bottom 2, the weekly meeting and the one-on-one meetings, that's where the rubber hits the road. That's where you're really going to use CRM to make a big difference as a leader and a manager. But if you don't set those up well with the annual and quarterlies, you're not going to get nearly the level of productivity out of it. So, so that's kind of my quick idea on that. Now, the other couple of things to think about with this is part of the inputs to your meetings are going to be executives. Remember, I talked about that up front. So you want executives to have some input. I'll come and talk about that a little bit. You're also going to have outputs from these meetings. So you're probably as an experienced sales manager or as someone who's trying to influence an experienced sales manager, you're probably already familiar with this idea of commitments, right? If you've done the Sandler selling principle or other selling systems like that, you know that you want to get commitments from the client throughout the process, just like they want to get commitments from you, right? Oh, you want me to commit to creating an RFP for you? That's great. You're going to commit to me that you're going to give me interviews with the right people so I can gather the right requirements and influence the people I need to influence throughout this. That's a commitment from the customer from you. You and your team are going to make commitments throughout this process too, and you're going to need a way to document those. You're also going to have executive reports, things you go back to leadership with. And another output is, what do we need to do different with CRM? And you need a disciplined way of capturing and recording that. Now, here's a hint for those of you who might be struggling with CRM overall. If the same 1 or 2 people are trying to respond to all of your outputs, you're probably going to fail, right? So if you say, I've got one person that I go to, or maybe one firm with one person who works with us, and they handle all of our CRM issues, they handle all of our change requests to do big things differently, and they handle all of our projects too, and they work kind of one way with us, whether that's a guy or gal on your team, or whether that's a guy or gal on a partner team, you're probably going to fail. I can tell you virtually every time I've worked on projects that are failing, that's one common denominator. The other thing I can tell you is, if your sales leader is not the owner of the CRM project and IT is the owner, you're probably going to fail. And you need to be detailed about understanding what does that mean. What it generally means is your business owner, they need to own the budget, they need to own the priorities. Your IT partner, and you need an internal IT partner for sure, and your IT department and potentially an external partner, they need to be a partner. They need to be subordinate to that. They're there to support, they're there to help, but they are not there to steer. They are not there to approve. They're there to just help you with best IT practices. This is a sales solution. It is not an IT solution. So a couple of things to think about with that. Okay, so jumping into the exciting stuff, the meetings. So here's our annual meeting, right? Remember, an 8-hour commitment, a 1-day commitment for you guys. And ideally, it's couched into your overall cadence of corporate meetings. So part of your input into that is, what was the output from executive planning meetings? And hopefully your sales leader is a part of those, so that person can bring some of that insight into the meeting. So there's a list. I'm not going to read through that list for you because I'm going to go through it on the upcoming pages here. So first of all, take a little time to celebrate. And again, I warned you, some of this might be repetitive for some of you folks, but I participate in a lot of sessions where some of these basic sounding things don't happen. So always take the time to share some things, right? What have you accomplished for the year? How have you grown as an individual? One thing I really like to do when I coach these is recognize at least 2 others for their role in success. One thing that happens with human nature is we tend to oversee our role in our success and underemphasize the role of the others. That's not bad, that's just human. But it helps you as a team to start to say, who else conspired to help me be successful? Was it that person in IT that handled some change requests that I had? Was it that person in sales engineering who really contributed to putting better proposals together? Was it the person who put a report together that helps me manage my time better? Whatever it was. And the leader should share the same. And ideally, the leader sets the example using CRM to tell some stories and share some numbers. Then review your previous year, your goals and your actuals. You'll see kind of what those are as we get deeper into this, using dashboards wherever you can to share those numbers. And we do have a recorded webinar on that as well. So that's why I'm skimming quickly over some of these topics. Then you want to go over your executive input. So what information was shared by the leadership team regarding what we're going to do for the coming year, right? What's the big scoreboard score that we need to try to go after? Also, are there components that are going to be part of individual sales plans? When I talk about one-on-one meetings, I'll come back and talk about that again in a little bit more detail. And then I also like always trying to align with the why, right? So always come back to, who are we? Why do we exist? Why do we do what we do? How have we agreed? What are our values? How have we agreed to do what it is that we do? It's always good if you can create connection to that. You start to align on purpose. And when you get people rowing in the same direction, you're way more effective than when everyone's rowing in whatever direction they think they should go in. And then some team building exercise. And this is where you might really blow it out. And I know some teams are kind of like, oh my gosh, it's this awesome tradition. We do a golf outing for a half a day every year. That's perfectly fine, but recognize you need about 8 full hours of planning time. So if you want to do your half-day golf outing, that's fine. Plan to do this over a 2-day. Maybe it's 2 mornings of meetings and 2 afternoons of team building, whatever works for you. Or if you need to kind of cram it into 1 day, you can do a quick 30-minute team building exercise. Now, one thing that you will not see on this list for your annual meeting is CRM training. Please don't do that. I've had so many clients, and back in the early days when we started, we thought it was a good idea too. It's sort of like, this is our one time a year when we can actually get all the salespeople together. So let's cram in an hour and a half of CRM training on top of everything else we're doing. Your people are dealing with an overwhelming amount of information without CRM training in this meeting. If you need CRM training, that's fine. That is scheduled outside of this meeting cadence. It is not built in. You might pick up a few little tidbits here and there, a few little secrets traded, but you need a separate cadence for that. Then define your annual team metrics. This can take a little while, right? So what I like to see is a total of about 6 to 15 metrics, about 2 to 5 per category that you are going to track weekly. So those fall into these 3 categories in my experience. One is goals. Goals are generally the big scoreboard goals. Those are the things that come from leadership. It's sort of, you know, what you can see some examples here. What's our overall revenue? It could even be a big user goal, like what's the total amount of weekly revenue you were going to book? Some of those may or may not be relevant. They bleed a little into KPIs, key performance indicators. So those are kind of sub-goals. They're metrics that indicate the big goal will be met. So how many proposals did you send? How many leads did you qualify? Demos you've done? And the last one, which is our own term, is what we call SQAGs. They are small, quickly attainable goals. You might have heard of BHAGs. Those are a little closer to that big goal up there at the top. SQAGs are different from KPIs and goals in that they are behaviors. They are things that people do and they have 100% control over, right? If you look at everything else on this list, I do not have 100% control over those things, right? I can say, wow, I want to qualify 100 leads next week. Well, that's great. But if you've only been given 50 leads to qualify, you cannot meet that KPI. But a SQAG is, I want to make this many calls. I want to make this many visits. I can absolutely do that. I might have challenges to doing it. I might need to tell my manager, I need to not be in that meeting if you want me to meet this goal. Or I need to spend a little less time writing a proposal if I'm going to make more calls. And maybe I need to go to my manager to have me find someone who can help me do those things. But if I have control over my time, I have control over getting these things done. Critical to success of your meeting. Have your KPIs and have your SQAGs and have your goals. Have at least a few of each. We'll talk more about that. I do have a worksheet on that if you want to get a little bit of a cheat sheet to help. Now, when you think about KPIs and SQAGs, here's a few questions to ask as you put them on your list. Comes from a much bigger facilitation approach we take to this, but these are the important salient ones. So first of all, does it change weekly? I've had a lot of people say, oh, we want to track revenue, but they're in such a monthly cycle with what they do, right? They're B2B, they send out invoices once per month. And so it's hard to measure that on a weekly basis. So is it something that if I'll see it one week, I'll see it the next, and I can have some influence over it? And that's the next question. Does the person influence it? So, okay, lead qualifications, I can influence that. I can try to spend more time in my leads, that's okay. Or do they control it? Is it a SQAG? So that's how you differentiate those. Does it influence one or more goals? So don't set SQAGs and KPIs that are meaningless, right? Try to draw, particularly early days, as direct of a connection between that item and that big goal as you possibly can. So if it's something like, I don't know, how about number of emails tracked? I see people do that a lot of times, or total number of activities tracked. Does that really have an influence on goals, especially if you're counting emails in your number of activities? Or is that something that kind of people game the system and don't really get it, right? So think carefully about it. You don't want a huge set of these, so the ones you do are going to count. Can you measure it using CRM today? That's not a requirement, but it's a desirable. So do you have the data in CRM you need to track it today? You may not have it in a dashboard yet, but it is at least the data there. Or if it's not, can we fit it in? Can we make some adjustments to putting it in there? And is it worth it to try? And by that, I mean, is the effort it's going to take to change CRM to track this and to change user behavior to put it in there, is that actually worth it? And that is a balancing act, right? It's difficult to say sometimes, but I've seen a lot of people create some great intentions around creating like a sales score that combines a lot of really interesting things. And all of a sudden there are people like, I've got to be a data entry machine to keep all this information up so you can get this information out. You don't want that, right? You want the right balance there. And lastly, is it going to be easy to understand? Are my people going to understand what this number means when I put it out there? Or is it just going to be kind of overwhelming for them? Try to keep it as simple as you can. Again, particularly in the early days of doing something like this. Another thing you want to think about: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and create a list of issues to track. I'm going to come back to that in our weekly cadence here in a minute, but I'm not going to belabor these things. You've got a good description here. You can look at that in a little more detail. And then, what are my shamrocks and my one SQAG for the next quarter? So shamrocks are like, I'm big into luck, so shamrocks are your wishes, your wish list. What do we want to get done as a project in the coming quarter to help us improve? And that can be something you can control strictly within your group. It might be something you have to partner with others to control, right? So you might say, well, we really want to track renewals in CRM better than we're tracking them right now. Okay, well, to do that, we might need a little help from somebody outside of the sales team to get that information in there. Or you might say, our big shamrock is we want to actually use CRM to generate more proposals. The functionality is there, we're not using it. Okay, that's something we can really work on getting trained together to do. So think about your shamrocks. You want 2 to 4 as a team per quarter. And then remember you came up with a list of squags, right? 2 to 4 squags, 2 to 5 maybe. Pick one. This is hard. Pick one, and only one that you will focus on as a team for the quarter ahead. And in your weekly meetings, you're going to talk about it. Really important, okay? So again, I know a lot of this was block and tackle. We're going to get into the meetings in a little more detail right here in the last quarter of the meeting. But I'm not going to talk much about quarterly meetings because really, quarterly meetings are essentially the same as the annual meeting. You're just not doing some of the big picture planning stuff. You're just recycling things, looking at, hey, how do we do in the last quarter? Is there any new information from executives or the marketplace we need to know about? The quarterly squag, do we keep it or do we change it to a different squag? Our shamrocks, how did we do? What ones do we want for the next quarter? And what are our open issues that we're managing? All of those agenda items are already in your annual meeting. You're just taking that last half day of your annual meeting, you're repeating that in your quarterly meeting to get things centered. And by the way, one thing I would tell you, I mentioned this up front, is it is easy to get a quarter or two into the calendar and say, we don't need that quarterly meeting. Things are either going fine or they're crazy busy, and so we're just going to skip this one. What I can tell you, every time I've worked with a company who has said, you know what, we want to skip it, we're not going to. Afterwards, that sales manager says, I had no idea there were these many things to talk about. You know, when we're this deep in the weeds for 3 months in a row, we forget where we're going, right? We forget that purpose, we forget that why, we forget who we are and where we're going, or the world has changed and we need to reorient a little bit. And it's easy to take your eyes off it. There's a ton of value in doing the quarterly meetings. Please do not skip them. So here's one last slide on the quarterly meetings though. Here is how quarterly meetings can change if you're using CRM to manage the meetings. And it actually comes a little bit from that opening story I shared. So here we are, right? You guys can all relate to this. Now, I've seen this kind of situation in a lot of scenarios before where, wow, our numbers aren't as good as they should be. But I can tell you the clients I'm coaching right now are seeing that a lot more often than they ever have in the past, right? So going, what are we going to do? How are we going to modify next quarter based on responding to what happened in the previous quarter? Conventional thinking is these kinds of questions. Well, all right, let's take last quarter's goal and set it as this quarter's goal again. So we wanted to produce this much revenue divided by 4 at the beginning of the year to make our annual goal. Let's move that number forward. Possibly worse, well, wait a minute, we didn't make as much in the first quarter and we still want to make our annual goal. So we've actually got to increase our goal to make the annual goal. Let's work harder on this. And then the last one is, well, what did we do with this quarter last year, right? How do we do last year in this coming quarter? And maybe we can learn something from that and apply it. None of those are bad in and of themselves, but if you're using CRM properly and using it to run your meetings and your users are engaged with it, you get to ask questions like this. What does the pipeline say we might be able to do this quarter? Instead of just some random wish list we hope we can do that's based on nothing because the entire world has changed, now you've got an active pipeline that you've kept up to date. And you can say, wow, at the beginning of the last quarter, it said we had $25 million in weighted opportunities, but you know what? We only closed $15 million. Things really fell off. And right now we're showing $17 million, and we know maybe our close rate's going to stay low. So really our opportunity pipeline might be telling us we've only got $15 million in opportunities right now. Okay, that's real information I can do something with. And then you ask the other questions. Can we work harder? Can we stretch to improve? Can we do something different? Can we respond to how the world has changed? Can we take industries that are working with us well and focus on those rather than focusing on the old industries that are really suffering and don't have any money to spend right now? And how will we measure what we're doing differently? Hint, what is our squag for the next quarter? And then all of that information all of a sudden lets you go back to the C-level executives and have some different conversations with them. Can't tell you how they're going to answer, but I can tell you you're likely to get a much better answer if you're bringing them data to make decisions than if you're bringing them your gut to make decisions. All right, the meat of today's meeting, and I know I kind of left it towards the very end here, but if I'd skipped everything else, I would have done a disservice to you. So the weekly meeting, we call it the weekly Lion's Den meeting, okay? Why do we call it the Lion's Den? Well, we call it that because it can be a tough meeting. It's not about everybody feeling good. It's about getting down to business. It's about doing things. It's about sometimes hearing and sharing bad news. It's about co-coaching each other. What I mean by that is it's not the manager coaching, it's the team together, working together to sharpen each other, right? As iron sharpens iron, so one human sharpens another human being, right? That brotherhood, that sisterhood can actually help us to all improve together. There's an awesome TED Talk on this, by the way. If you've ever heard of a super smart person named Dr. Brene Brown, go look her up on TED Talks, because there's two things that happen in these meetings that are not comfortable. One is accountability, and that's what I was just talking about. The other is what Brene talks about. It's called vulnerability. And vulnerability is essentially your willingness to be accountable to something, right? Your willingness to open yourself up. It's a lion's den, right? It's scary, it's not comfortable, but because there's somebody in charge of this who's bigger than me, I can walk into the lion's den in confidence that it may not be fun, but it is going to be safe. Scary, but safe. That's what your lion's den meeting is all about. You're not trying to make it just a feel-good meeting. You're getting stuff done. So let's talk about how you get stuff done. First of all, preparation. So I didn't count this in the overall meeting time. For the day-to-day folks, for the reps who are coming, their preparation should be minimal. 5 minutes to get ready. Make sure that they've got information entered into the weekly Excel. I know you're saying, wait a minute, Excel, I thought this was about CRM. It is, and I'm going to come back to that in a second. Manager, you're going to review all the front windows and rear views and drill in for more information and jot your questions down. I will tell you what I mean by those things in a slide or two here. There's also going to be that issue list, that commitment list. Everyone should have access to that and should be able to go add things before the meeting to it if they choose to, or during the context of the meeting. Those are things you're going to talk about in the context of the meeting when you have time. And everyone has the following items open. CRM with their personal weekly dashboard. You manager will have essentially a management version of that. Your LuxScore Excel sheet, more on that in a second. And an agenda with your issues, your shamrocks, and your commitments on it. Hopefully I've made clear what those three things are. We do have an upcoming webinar on this to talk more about front windows and rear views. It's called Dashboard Best Practices. Look for that. I'll send you the link if you want it. This is your LuxScore Excel that you're going to be filling out. So remember I said you're going to develop those metrics, goals, KPIs, and squags. You're going to list them one per line in an Excel worksheet. You're going to assign an owner each quarter who owns populating that information in here. If you've done it well in CRM, they'll just be able to go to CRM and it very easily pull the numbers. Some of those numbers might not be in CRM. It might take looking at your accounting system, and someone who can do that will need to do those. Some of them might not be easy to capture in any system, and it might take a little bit of manual effort to get them in there. Not desirable, but it's something you can do. Now, you might look at this and go, Jeff, why are you telling my team to fill out an Excel? In fact, I thought you said I don't want to do that. And you're right. I am talking out of both sides of my mouth a little bit here. Why I'm telling you to do this? There's several reasons why you want to do this. Number one, because the habit of filling this in actually creates more engagement and accountability around managing these numbers. Number two, if you set it up right, it consumes very little time, right? Oh, I own the call attempts squag. So what I have to remember to do before this meeting each week is I open up CRM, I open up the dashboard that has that squag on it, I look at the number, I type it into the Excel spreadsheet. It took me less than 1 minute to do all that, but now I'm coming to the meeting with that in my head instead of passively coming with some maybe really cool dashboard that just gets pulled out of a system and I look at it. And the last reason is sometimes it's really painful to put this all together in a single dashboard. It might take a lot of time and effort to start bringing all of this together. And you might find as you get into it, after you spend all that time and effort putting the dashboard together, this metric doesn't really make that much sense. This other one does, and now I got to go change it, and that's going to be a huge time consumption. Start this way. And if you want to make glitzy dashboards later, make the glitzy dashboards later. But I would challenge you to say that one squag that you're managing as a team, always have someone own it, always have somebody key it in. It's simple to do, and it creates ownership. Okay, your overall weekly meeting, all electronic devices are turned off. Very challenging in the sales team. Somebody always has an urgent something that they're waiting on a phone call for that they'll interrupt stuff for. Just say no. It's an hour out of each week. And if it gets interrupted in the middle of it, it's that much time for everybody in the meeting who's missing it. turn the phone off. Even turn your alerts and messages off on your other things too. Don't get Teams notifications. Don't get email notifications. This is your time to be together. And you as a leader are going to commit back to them that if we manage this time well during this meeting, I'm going to spend less time during the week interrupting you to get information from you that I could be getting in this meeting or out of CRM. More on that later. So each person should then share their rear view, what they've accomplished, and their front window, what they have planned for the coming weeks via their individual dashboard. Remember, I gave you the terms of rear view and front window. So rear view is, it should be a very simple view. Hey, here's all the things I accomplished last week. Here's the opportunities I've closed. Here's the calls I've made. Here's the proposals I've sent. Here's the emails I've sent, whatever it is. But one quick view. Here's a count of all those things. Here's some highlights. Now, key to this that almost everyone misses, and I believe is actually far more important than the rear view, is the front window. What do you have planned for this coming week? Another view inside of CRM, another dashboard or part of that same dashboard in CRM tells you, here's what I've got going on this coming week. So it can't be I did all this stuff last week and I've got a blank slate this week, but I'm going to plan to do a bunch of stuff, and by next week I'll have it all filled in for you. That's managing your work from your rear view. How many of you drive a car with a rear view mirror? Of course not. You drive your car with a front window. You're proactive. And that's one of the best skills you bring to the marketplace as a sales leader, whether you're the manager or whether you're just a leading sales rep, is I'm going to be proactive. And CRM is not just a tracking tool so my manager can see what I did. It is a planning tool so I and my manager know what I have in the week ahead of me, and I can be proactive and on top of it. Now, some people also use something called a closing formula. If you know what that is, this is the time to use it. If you don't know what that is, don't worry too much about it right now. Now, you're also going to want to reference your notes, views, other information where helpful as people go through these kinds of things. In fact, you'll want to look at that and go, hey, Jeff, great job that you had those several calls last week. Those sound like they're really key critical calls. I'm looking at where we've agreed to track the notes for those calls. I'm not seeing much substance there right now. And that's going to be really important to us to have that information because we report on that. We use AI for that. People in procurement or operations or whoever are going to reference some of that information. So where are you putting that again? Let's get it into the right place for it to be going forward. Got a bunch of resources for you along those lines too, if you like. Then you do your luck score review. So remember all that stuff we built up in the annual and the quarterlies, here's where it all bears fruit. So a brief review of all the luck score items on the spreadsheet, just how are we doing? And the cool thing is each week you're entering it in a new column. So you're not just like, well, here's what it is this week, but did it go up? Did it go down? How did it compare to last month, last week, last year? How are we changing? How are we moving the needle on that? That's quick. A little more time is spent on the one squag you've decided to focus on as a team this quarter. And you discuss how the team score, the team, not the individual score, the team score can be improved. So if you've agreed on a squag that, let's say it's number of outbound phone calls made, number of outbound attempts made. So the score for that is how many did the entire team do? And ideally, you've even set goals around it. So now you talk about, hey, our goal is 90 and we made 70 this week. How can we improve that? Now, sitting out there somewhere is someone who did not make their share of the goal, and sitting out there somewhere else is someone who's hitting it out of the park and is way beyond their fair share of the goal. And your goal here is not to beat an individual up because they're lagging. They might be young, they might be new, they might be years away from being able to fully carry their weight in that area. Your goal is to say, as a team, how can we collaborate together so that really experienced seasoned person can share some ideas that are working for them without you as a sales manager having to push that. And then the team makes more commitments to it. Hey, you know what? I noticed one thing, Jeff, that for me, I actually pre-plan at least 15 calls per week. And when I look at my front window report, I can see those on Monday morning. And I noticed on yours, you've only got like 2 or 3 in there. I'll bet if you take some time Monday morning or Friday afternoon to pre-plan those, you're going to be way better at actually hitting the goal, and we can all make our goal together by doing that. That's the kind of conversation you want to have, and you track the commitments. Okay, here's what I'm committing to. Here's what the team is committing to this week. So when we review those commitments later in the meeting each week, we can track how well we did. You're building accountability in. Let's see. Okay, we're running out of time, so I'll try to be very brief with this. I may go a few minutes over. I'll ask your Forgiveness for that. If you have to dash, I understand, but we're recording, so you can come back and watch the last few minutes later. So then you want to review your shamrocks. And this is a quick meeting, but remember, your shamrocks are your big, some people just call them rocks, right? They're the big projects you want to get done as a team during this quarter, right? They're aside from the other things or proactive things you're doing to permanently change how you're working together, whatever those are. A few minutes to review those and say, where are we with them? Who owns them? What progress did you make? What help can we give you? What got in your way of getting those things done this week? And the manager might be the one who's owning some of those as well and is reporting back to the group on how they're doing with them. You'll also review the commitments list, right? We've talked about that, but now you go into the list and you say, here's what people committed to last week. How did you do with that? How did you succeed? Why did you fail? What can we do to help you improve a little bit in that area? How can we all play together with this? And then you also have your overall issues list that you're working through. What I like to do, because this list will probably be longer than you can ever get to, you can set it up in Excel. You can use the same one as your LuxScore Excel if you want to, and you actually give each rep a column. You'd have names instead of rep 1, rep 2, and rep 3 in there, and they each get votes, maybe 3 to 7 votes each, same number per person, and they can prioritize these. And then you sort them by the total, and you're like, we got 20 issues. We only have time to get to 3. Let's get to the 3 everyone has the most energy around and move on very quickly. You can manage that kind of stuff in CRM too. Now, not going to be able to do full due diligence to this slide, but the monthly one-on-ones, or really one-on-ones in general, some of those might be planning, the individual work plans that you're setting up with your people. Some of those might be follow-ups, and it might be a 30-minute visit with somebody, checking in with them. It might be 2 days spent in the car or alongside them or virtually alongside them, riding along, right? Actually, let me watch what you're doing because I want to help to coach you. There's tons of information to extract out of CRM to help you do that better. So people can put their own plans on an account by account level to do that. Looking at active opportunities, neglected items. Hey, Jeff, here's your list of accounts that you have set or targeted, but have not received any kind of contact from you in 90 days. Let's talk about that, right? Are you struggling to keep up with this? Do I need to take something off of you? Is it that you're not adopting CRM well enough? What does that look like? Here are your various target lists. Here's your event and networking plan. A lot of people say, don't put your networking activities inside of CRM. I say, is that a KPI? Then absolutely get those inside of CRM. So you can review them together and say, I said I'm going to do 1 networking meeting per month. You can go have visibility into whether I'm meeting that or not. There's a lot of other things you can do in there too. And remember, overall, activity planning and tracking, front window, rear view. Look at that over a longer period of time compared to their colleagues and help them to make improvements there. We have a great ebook on doing some of those things together. So if I'm going to wrap up and say this, what I would say is I've just kind of described to you this infinite loop, right? You go around and around the loop annually, quarterly, weekly, continue to do this. But as you're going around the loop, you're working together to come up with the ideas. You're working together to come up with the metrics. It's not just me, the manager, telling you, I'm going to track this about you. And in some cases, that might need to be a little bit of the role you play. But ideally, it's the people saying, well, if leadership wants us to improve revenue by this much this year, one thing we think we can do better is X. Great. How do we track X? How do we change our behavior around X, right? It's about transformations, about continuous change. And remember, I launched by talking about powered by luck. Well, this infinite loop, not only each one of these meetings are you listening, understanding, connecting, and knowing, but it's an overall process of being in a cadence of doing that throughout the year. So you're constantly coming back. All right, I listened. I've learned a lot. Let's listen again and let's improve and let's relaunch the next year. We call that whole process LuxScore. Few other closing comments. First of all, if you're doing CRM right, you don't have to say any of these things you see here, right? I should never have to call someone and say, can you send me that quote? Can you tell me what's going on with that opportunity? No, that should be in CRM. If I'm a good digital manager, I should be able to go get those kinds of answers myself. Now, I might need to change behavior to make that happen. Remember, as a good digital manager, do you have the right coaching you need to get there, right? Everybody needs a coach. The professional athletes have way more coaches than the amateurs do. Are you an amateur or are you a professional? Get the right coaches and take the time to establish a clear digital vision. We actually have an upcoming webinar on that, how to build out a vision for your CRM. Focus on freeing your team. And what I mean by that is honor CRM and the meeting cadence. Most of your communication with your team should be able to happen within that so that, hey, if you're going to use CRM right, and if you're going to do these meetings right, I'm not going to bug you much more during the week at all, because all the questions I need to get answered are getting answered there. So yeah, I'd rather be out selling than entering stuff in CRM. Yeah, I'd rather be out selling than going to another meeting. But ultimately, if entering stuff into CRM and going to the meeting actually result in more effective sales and freeing up time because you're not interrupting me as much, awesome. And there's a lot of information that suggests that freeing up time by not interrupting people is something we are absolutely missing. I've got an ebook on that for you if you're interested. Try to have some fun with it too. I realize this is a very routine process, but there are awesome ways to gamify this. There's actually the gamification module available for CRM. I love implementing that for people. Culturally, that's not always a good fit. Sometimes you set the goal and you can just celebrate the goal. Hey, you're going to get a gift certificate to go out to dinner with your family, or whatever we can do in these COVID ages to do that. Or we're going to go celebrate as a team somewhere. Have some fun with it. Enjoy it, celebrate it some, but do it in a way that works with your culture. Every company is different. It can backfire if you try to do it the way you want to, if you don't kind of figure out the way other people want to celebrate things and be recognized as well. So a lot of you have stayed with me for the entire session. I really appreciate that. And I will stay on to take a few questions afterwards. So if you need to bounce, feel free to do so. But if you'd like to hear the questions, do that. If you want all these links that I've shared today, just email me. There's my contact information. Reach out. If you want to dive deeper into luck principle, I got a little simple book on Amazon. It's a very quick Saturday afternoon read. And if you're looking for help with this, it's what we do. If you need help getting your CRM working right, or if you need help with coaching or anything like that, we are here to help you do those things, and I'd be delighted to hear from you about those as well. Thank you, everybody. Lori, did we have any questions?
All right, fabulous, Jeff. Comments, great comments. Somebody had to duck out, but great info. Wish I could stay. Thank you for the guidance. Have a great day. Thank you. You too, Nancy. Glad that you were here to share with us. I know we are a couple minutes over, but would love if there's any other questions from the audience. Let's take a moment, raise your hand. Would love to unmute your line and you can ask your questions live. We did record this session. Apologies if I didn't mention that at the beginning of the webinar, but yes, we did record the session and we will get it posted to our content library within the next couple hours. If you registered for the event, we'll send you a direct link to that information as well. All right, no questions are coming in at this time, so I think we'll go ahead and wrap. Jeff, as always, great webinar. Makes you think, right? Like all these meetings that we have and trying to make the most out of them. So definitely appreciate you being here and sharing, Jeff.
Thank you, Lori.
All right, as we close down, you will receive a brief pop-up survey. If you appreciate you taking a couple moments to give Jeff the feedback as well as the user group community. There's a comment section in there as well. Any upcoming topics you'd like to see, anything you'd like to let us know. Know that these are read, and we do our best to make sure that we implement what you're looking for. So if you have questions, as always, you can reach out to me directly. But thank you for being here today, and we'll look forward to seeing you back here real soon on an upcoming webinar. So have a great day. Thanks again, Jeff.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks again, Lori.